I am a huge coffee fan and I probably drink way more than I should, but it's kind of like my vice and I truly run off caffeine. So I have a love of like the vanilla caramel creamer. But a few years back, I found out that these things, even though they say like pasteurized and stuff like that, they're not actually cream based. They're actually oil based, which that's completely fine. But if you ever run out, or if you just want something with a little bit better ingredients, we're going to make some homemade coffee creamer. But here's the kicker, a lot of the recipes I found, you have to cook it on the stove. Well, not that that's difficult, but I wanted something super, super easy, and you cannot get any easier than this. Okay, so we are going to start with just a mason jar. This is a 32-ounce one. I do use a little spatula. Now, since we're going to do vanilla creamer, I like to start with the sweetened condensed milk. Sometimes you can find this on sale. Even my local grocery store, they give them away sometimes as their free item Friday. We're going to use some vanilla extract, and then we need the caramel. This was caramel sauce I actually got at Dollar Tree. So how's it taste? Let's see how it compares. That is almost exactly spot on. I could up, the vanilla or the caramel to get that perfect taste, but this one actually comes out really close. It's actually not as sweet as the pre-made creamer, which I actually kind of like, so I think I'm going to keep it this way. But now it brings up a new question. Now, first thing in the morning, I am not always the most coordinated of people, so pouring from this can get a little difficult. Now, I do recommend that you give this a little shaky shake before you use it, but if you don't, it's totally fine, but sometimes it will settle. Now, this will last in your fridge for as long as the milk will last. So the milk that I'm using, it actually expires in about 5-6 days. So this will be good for about 5-6 days. Milk's one of the few things that I do actually go by pretty close to the expiration date, but I also have my husband sniff it sometimes just to make sure, but I haven't had a problem yet. Now, here's where it can get interesting. So if you have one of these bottles that is empty, you could just pour this in here, obviously clean this out first, and then now you have the nice pourable spout in your fridge. But what if you're using milk that expires really soon, like within the next couple days? Well, we got something for that too. Now, like I said, I'm not always super coordinated, and I don't really want to spill this all over my counter. So I'm just going to pour a bunch back in here. And then I found these really cool ice cube trays at Walmart. What's nice about these, they're the silicone and they got like an easy release. And I find sometimes when you're freezing items that aren't water, it's hard to release them. But in this way, you just make yourself some nice, easy ones. And if your coffee pot is anything like mine, where it is like boiling hot after it first brews, I like to pop these little guys in my cup first and then pour my coffee over it. It completely melts it and gets it evenly distributed, and then we're all good to go. Plus, by freezing it, you're going to extend the shelf life. This is great if you live alone or maybe only one of you likes creamer, like at my house. And then it kind of lasts a long, long time. I've never actually tested how long it will last because honestly, it doesn't last that long. So now, the one thing is you cannot freeze this stuff. It has oil in it, which means it won't fully freeze. This is milk and the condensed milk, so it will freeze. So we're going to go pop this in the freezer and then we'll come back. I just grabbed my little ice cubes from the freezer. Look how nice that came out. And they're completely frozen. Just pop them right out. I like to use just a little plastic container to put them all in. And that way, if you have a whole bunch and you want to freeze like a whole batch, you could just have a whole little container for them. So you just fill these out and then just put them back in the freezer. So how do they taste once they're frozen? Let's find out. Okay, so here is all my little frozen ice cubes. I'm gonna put about 3 in there, and then we're just gonna pour the hot coffee over it. And then you can just grab a spoon. Now, this works really, really well if you have coffee that comes out super crazy hot out of your coffee machine. Okay. We just recently had to change out our coffee machine because the old one stopped working. And I can tell you that it is way hotter than our old coffee machine was. So here we go. Tastes just as good as when I had it in the jar and poured it directly in my coffee. So that's perfect. Now you may be wondering, is this actually going to save me money? Overall, I don't think this is going to be a huge cost savings, but it's all going to depend on how much you paid for the sweetened condensed milk, and then also how much you paid for the milk, because the other flavorings you probably already have at home, and really you can use any liquid flavorings. Some of the people on Facebook mentioned using some of the flavored sauces, like the Torani coffee sauces would work right in this. Just make sure that whatever you put in your mix, if your plan is to freeze it, make sure it's not like an oil based thing, because oil doesn't typically freeze well. Now, the other part of this is, why would you even bother with this? If for some reason you ran out of coffee creamer, but you happen to have condensed milk, this is a great alternative. If you don't want to drink the commercially available non-dairy creamer, or the creamers that are basically oil-based, this is a good option because it is milk-based. Now, you can definitely buy creamers, but they are going to be more expensive, the ones that are actually based on cream. Now, last but not least, this is just a fun little experiment that you can do at home, especially if you like maybe seasonal coffee creamers that aren't available all year round. Now, I will warn you that if you want to add seasonings like cinnamon or cocoa powder, stuff like that, I have found that you do have to constantly shake the bottle, because anything that's like a spice or a powder, it does either want to collect at the top or it likes to sit at the bottom. So I do prefer to keep it mostly liquid. So let me know down below if this is something you are willing to try. I will mention this is also a great way to use up a lot of milk that is getting ready to expire, because once you freeze it, it then can last for much longer than if it had just been in your fridge. So always a great option. I'll see you guys later. Bye.